أكبر الله أكبر حي على الصلاة الله أكبر.
I rise to my highest heights, in the highest of praise to the great God Allah, the rootless root, the causeless cause, the infinite, and the highest of honors to the Prophet, Noble Jew Ali. I would also like to extend those honors to the forerunner, Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I'd like to extend those honors to the Office of the Grand Governor here at Morris Tice Temple of America, subordinate temple number 19. I extend those honors to the Office of the Lieutenant and the Office of the Chairman, and also to the Ills and Bays and the Groves and to the Mighty Vanguards. Tonight, we are going to draw from chapter 10 of the Morris Holy Quran, Circle 7. We're going to talk about the triune Allah. And we're going to square that up with the Gospel of John out of the Bible, or which we call the Piscean text. And that's chapter 10, Roman numeral X. And let's begin at verse number 11. Now this is Jesus speaking on the unity of Allah and man to the Hindus. Verse number 11. A lawyer said, I pray to Jesus, tell who is this Allah you speak about? Where are his priests, his temples, and his shrines? And Jesus said, the Allah I speak about is everywhere. He cannot be compassed with walls, nor hedged about with bounds of any kind. All people worship Allah, the One, but all the people see him not alike. The universal Allah is wisdom, will, and love. All men see not the triune Allah. One sees him as Allah of might, another as Allah of thought, another as Allah of love. A man's ideal is his God, and so, as man unfolds, his God unfolds. Man's God today, tomorrow is not God. So let's look at this triune Allah. What is the triune Allah according to the Morris Holy Quran? First of all, what is triune? Tri is what? 3. Un would denote unity. So it's talking about the universal God, Allah, being triune. We have in verse number 14, wisdom, will, and love. Okay, so let's look at the Gospel of John in the Holy Bible, Piscean text. Chapter 1 states, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. First of all, as Moorish Americans, what do we see, what sticks out to us as far as I guess the first 3 words, in the beginning? Well, first of all, we know that time never was when man was not. And all things concerned with time have a beginning and an end. So we see here that we need to investigate this a little bit. Because here it says, in the beginning. If we take a look at the Greek text, that this was translated from all right, this is Greek. That's N. Arch. N. O. Logo or logos. Chi-O. Logo. In. Logo. That's actually pro. Tove. Kion. Kai. Kion. It's actually new. Logo or logos. All right. So this says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. It's translated out of the Greek here. However, this word here, arch, does not mean beginning. It actually means arch, or highest, or chief, or principal. So we have highest, chief, or principal. All right? This word, logos. The English translator translated it as word, but this word actually can mean, it can mean manifest thought, or it could mean reason. But when we square that up with Noble Drew Ali, what the prophet has to say in 15 verse 1 of the Most Holy Quran, says the harbinger had paved the way. The logos had been introduced to men as love made manifest, and he must now begin his divine ministry. So the logos that the prophet speaks about is love. So here we have one of the aspects of the triune Allah. So as we keep going, we have the word God, translated out of Greek. All right? This word looks like a kion, but in English we'll say theos. All right? Theos, that would mean the deity or the divine. But the Sefer Bible coming out of Hebrew, that word theos, they have Elohim. So let's get back to this love thing. In the Christian church, one of the greatest scriptures that you would hear coming up be John 3:16. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. That whosoever believes in Him shall not perish, shall have everlasting life. But we also square that up with the prophet in chapter 2, verse 20. In chapter 2, verse 20. That naught can make them one but love. That Allah so loved the world that He clothed His Son in flesh, that man may comprehend. So here again, and we'll get down later where it says that Logos was made into flesh. So Jesus will say Jesus, and now that same Sefer Bible coming out of Hebrew, it'll say Yahshua. A couple different spellings for that. Or Yahusha. But who is that love made manifest to us, though, in these days and times? Prophet Noble Ali. So, let's move on to verse 2. It says, the same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by Him, and without Him was not anything made that was made. So, verse 3, what does that sound like? Because we've already said that the word God here would be the same coming out of Hebrew as Elohim. All right? So, we'll look at, what is that, key 97? What does key 97 say? What is the Elohim? First of all, who made you? We already know. Who made you? Allah. All right. Key 97. Who is Elohim? The 7 creative spirits that made everything that ever was, is, and evermore be. Islam. Verse 4. In Him was life, and the life was the light of men. All right. So, this word life, many Christian scholars they'll say, well, life, that means salvation through Christ. But us masterminds here in the MST of A, we know that when it says that our saving power is the gospel, and who brings us that saving power? Our prophet brings us that saving power. But then the next key in the 101s, it talks about the covenant of honoring thy father and thy mother. Which brings me to, the thing that all of us as Moorish Americans, should be demonstrate whenever we get a chance, is that we're not Negro, blacks, and colors. But these were slave labels given to the Asiatics of North America by the pale-skinned nations of Europe in 1774 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. So let's keep going. Life was the light of men, and the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. So here, let's look at this word light. Because light, let me erase this. I don't know if anybody's taking notes. Light here, coming out of the Greek, all right? Now, that means, coming out of the Greek, can mean the source of human wisdom or saving wisdom. So here we have another aspect of the triune Allah. Prophet knew what he was doing, didn't he?
He did.
I mean, he gave it to us in a simple way that we can understand, you know, and it wasn't spookism or anything that you had to really kind of decipher. I mean, he just kind of made it plain. Now, so we got principle, right? But Proverbs chapter 4, verse 7. So we already have that love or logos is the principal thing. Proverbs 4:7 says, wisdom is the principal thing. And to get wisdom. Spelled that wrong right there. P-L-E. Alright? So, along with wisdom here, the Moorish Science Temple of America, we would understand this. This Hebrew concept for wisdom would also be undifferentiated mind. The sheet was on it earlier with the, talking about the thoughts. Undifferentiated mind, or in other words, unity. I don't know how many people we have that study any of the Gnostic degrees or anything, but that unity is real big in that. So here we begin to read about the harbinger starting in verse 6. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. Or a man sent from Allah whose name was John. But here that word for God is not Elohim, but it was the Hebrew coming out of the Sefer would be, anybody want to take a guess? Yeah. Or Yahweh. I think they're spelling it right correctly. Or the great I am. Alright, so verse 7. The same came for a witness to bear witness of the light, that all men through him might believe. He was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. That was the true light, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. Alright? So, here's another key that came to me while I was studying this. And this was this chapter is the chapter that kind of studying this drove me out of Christianity by picking up these keys. But this word here for where it says he was the light in the world. World here is translated the Greek word used here anybody see what that is? Cosmos. Or literally universe. Alright? So we'll properly read, that was the true light which lighteth every man that cometh into the universe. He was in the universe, and the universe was made by him, and the universe knew him not. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name, which were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. Here we have the third one, will. And this would properly read, instead of but of God, which were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but will of Allah. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth, which again squares up with the harbinger paving the way. The logos have been introduced to men as love made manifest. Also on this will, I don't know how many of us have studied the tree of life, but will on the 10 Sephiroth, many Kabbalists would argue that will is like the highest comprehensible, attribute of Allah that man can comprehend. But that would be the crown or Keter Sephiroth. And wisdom, I meant to say that's the Chakma. So here we can clearly see how, the Piscean text, it demonstrates the triune Allah, but a lot of times growing up in Christian church, we just don't really see it this way. I mean, it really takes, a little bit of studying, and this wasn't really deep studying, but, it just takes going beyond the blind faith that we talked about earlier.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Hayya ala salah. Allah.